Welcome to Osprey TV. Today our guest is New Zealand-born Hamish Stubbs. He's now residing in WA and living in one of the best parts, in my opinion, down south in Dunsborough. Is that right?
Yeah,
Dunsborough?
that's right.
Yep. Hamish's photography ambitions and desire started when he used to see a lot of really nice ocean-based imagery, and he thought, hey, got to get some of that. So he went out and bought himself a GoPro, but he quickly realised that there's limitations of how good a GoPro can be. So he swapped his GoPro out for a DSLR and has never looked back. He says his favourite type of photography, or what he does in terms of photography, is generally ocean-based, landscape with a little bit of astro mixed in. But I can tell you, I have seen this guy point a camera at absolutely anything, and everything he does point a camera at looks pretty bloody good. So let's welcome Hamish in the studio. G'day, mate.
Cheers, Ron.
Good to see you. Good, buddy. Good. What's been happening?
Just returned back from a week up Carragini, so did the whole drive up the middle and then back down the coast. We got the first day up to Dale's Gorge, shot that, then unfortunately after the second day we got through Hancock Gorge and then the rain came in and pretty much washed out the rest of the Carragini trip. But we still made the most of it and got some good stuff down the coast and that on the way back through Kalbarri and Shark Bay and stuff.
It's a good bit of coastline up there.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. All right, mate, so you grew up in New Zealand and you're back and forth there all the time. What was it like growing up there?
It was awesome. Outdoors is second to none in New Zealand. So most weekends as a kid spent out in the river or the lakes. It was just, everything was outdoors, especially in the summer and that, just finding different watering holes and all sorts.
And now when you go back with a photographer's eye, how epic is that?
I go back as a tourist now.
Yeah.
So after about 6 months living in Australia, I went back and flew back over the Southern Alps there and looked down. I was like, oh, now I get the fuss.
Yeah, mate, it is absolutely breathtaking. It's one of those places that everywhere you go, every time you turn a corner, you're like, that's the most incredible landscape I've ever seen.
Yeah,
so,
driving in New Zealand it's pretty awesome.
It's special, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. When did you move to Oz?
2011, so August 2011. So it was not long after all the earthquakes and that in Christchurch.
Yep.
Just there wasn't much left to do for someone in their sort of early to mid 20s and wasn't too keen on hanging around and just sort of lingering.
Yeah. And you've pulled up stumps down south. What's it like? You're in Dunsborough, is that right?
Yeah, we're in Dunsborough. So we moved down last May. We had a friend that was living down there and they had to move away for a while, but they said, if you want to finally move down, we'd always talked about it. Said you can move in here for cheap rent, and now we're building a place and we're moving into that in a couple of months. So the rest is history. It's
good. I mean, again, in my opinion, some of the best coastline in Australia for sure. Yeah. And, it matches it with around the world. So you're really lucky to have that on your doorstep.
Yeah,
do you find living down there, you sort of really get in tune with the weather and you know where to go at the certain times and that sort of thing, as opposed to when you have to do a quick weekend down there from up here? Is you find you ease into it and you sort of can pick your spots a bit better? Yeah,
definitely. So like being up in Perth, obviously everything's west facing at the beach. Where down there you can be like east facing, west facing, north facing. You can just always find a beautiful spot to get away and photograph or just enjoy the day.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at the weather and the cloud cover and storms and astro and everything
mixed in. Are you shooting full time or what else?
No, not full. I work up in the mines sort of week on, week off.
Yep.
Ideally I'd like if that sort of moved towards more of a job share kind of thing, so I've got more time down here to do the photography stuff because it's starting to get pretty busy at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's good. And so just tell us a bit of a background. How did you get into photography? I touched on it, but
so in one of my last years in New Zealand, I'd always had point and shoots. Like I was always the person that took the most photos at parties and all that sort of stuff. But on our last trip around New Zealand, we did it for New Year's up at Rhythm and Vines and went up through the Coromandel, and I just had a point and shoot and got some really nice landscapes and that, and sort of got a bit of a taste for it then. But then when I moved to Australia, I'd been here about a year or so and decided to buy a GoPro, and I think that was around the time Instagram might have came out. Seen a lot of like Clark Little's sort of stuff, and there's a few other guys in Hawaii who I was sort of gravitating towards.
Yep.
So got that, and then after I sort of found myself a bit limited to what you could do with the GoPro, like I've seen a lot of guys with their DSLRs doing like the over-under stuff. So I actually came up with a design to sort of make one of those domes for a GoPro. So kind of put a lot of sort of energy into that for a wee while, and then sort of I made one for myself, and that was all I really wanted it for.
Yeah.
And then sort of gave
did you just hack it? What did you do? Get stuff from Bunnings? Or?
I got like your security camera domes.
Yeah.
So I got one of them, and then went to a plastics place, got a flat bit and glued that to the back. Then I got a Polar Pro, like one of the polarizing filters, glued that to the back of that, and just snapped it on the front. Jeez. So it was shocking. Like there's water droplets all over it.
Did it? And it was sealed. It was fine. Like,
you could still get the like pretty good over unders. And
yeah.
I had a couple. Went over the Great Barrier Reef with my parents at Christmas, and a couple of shots I got over there went pretty bonkers. And everyone's like, "Oh, when are you making these? When are you making these?" Because this is before they were out.
Yeah.
Like, and so after a few months, I was like, oh, maybe this is actually something I should look into. And we got some prototypes in China and that, and we actually had someone on board as an ambassador already, like one of the big Australian wave photographers at the time.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just got a bit too excited by it and let some things slip, and other companies got wind of it, and they had the engineering just to smash it. Yeah. So kind of missed that one. But so once that was all done, I was just like, I've had enough of GoPro. That's it. I want a proper camera.
Yep.
So bought a Nikon D7100, and then pretty much bought a ticket to Hawaii the same week. Didn't have housing then, but I flew over there and rented one for the week, and pretty much the first week was doing what I would still love to do the most, but don't get the chance to so often, is like film a lot of like the larger marine life, like your sharks and whales and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then once I got back here, I was doing a lot of surf stuff once I bought myself an aquatic housing.
Yep.
And then once the waves weren't really working for me, I was like, oh, what do I shoot now? And then up at work, I think it started when a lightning storm came through. I was just taking some photos of a sunset, and the storm came through and it cracked this like beautiful lightning shot, and that just sort of had me hooked on the landscape side.
Yep.
And from there, it's all pretty much history.
Oh, that's good. It's amazing how once you get your eye in and the skill set can easily be moved across to any sort of different situation, and then you can discover new passions for different types of photography as well. Have you ever delved into macro or anything like that?
No, macro is something I intended to for a little bit. I did get a macro lens off Olympus for a wee bit when I was using their stuff, but I never really got into it. That's probably the one thing I've never touched.
Yeah, it's just another
it's just like some of the images that the guys get doing macro stuff's amazing, but not my cup of tea personally.
Yeah, for sure. So you said it was the over-unders and the lightning sort of shot that was a turning point for you.
Yep.
What else was it that got you hooked in terms of the photography? Did you find a lot of joy in the post-production part as well?
Yeah, more so recently, I think, because to start with, I really didn't know what I was doing post-processing side.
Yep.
But I definitely do like sort of not manipulating photos, but sort of manipulating where the eyes led within that photo. And say if it's a seascape shot where that water flow is kind of aiming people and sort of highlighting that point and darkening down the spots that aren't so necessary. I did have a bit of creative fun back in the day, just like with random sky replacements and stuff that just look silly, but it was good fun.
It's good fun. And I think sometimes, there's a lot of thoughts about people saying, images are over photoshopped or over manipulated, but I think there's a lot of art in that as well. So if you can understand that, sure, some of them are, but the things that you can create is I see it just as another derivative of the art form. So people, as long as there's no people aren't saying no, it's legit straight out of the camera.
Yeah, well, that's the one problem with that sort of stuff is a lot of people are just sort of posting it and not saying anything.
Yeah,
and then it kind of everyone expects that to be the standard of landscape, where a lot of the stuff they might be doing it might be impossible to do with a camera of one shot sort of thing. Yeah,
for sure. Tell us about what kind of gear you're using at the moment, and what's in your normal bag that you carry around with you.
So at the moment I've got the Nikon D810, and I've got 3 Tamron lenses: the 15-30, the 24-70, and the 70-200. 90% of the time I'm shooting with the 15-30.
Yep. And filters?
Filters, I use Nissi filters. Mostly I just use a 3-stop and a 3-stop grad, just because my long exposures aren't like the super long misty ones. They're more that water movement sort of
So
scene.
still maintaining that sort of sense
maintaining
of realism.
some detail of where the water's actually going rather than just a carpet of water.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, we'll bring up your first image that you brought in to show us today. So if we can get this. Okay, mate, so we're looking at this absolutely... I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Like, it's just so much going on there. Crazy shot.
Cheers, mate.
Mind-blowing. I remember when you posted this and I was just like... I went and got all my camera gear and just threw it in the bin. So there's no point competing with that. Sensational. Tell us about it. Where is it? Tell us the story, mate. How did this even exist?
So when I first moved down to Dunsborough, one of the first shots I had in my mind, because I'd previously tried it when I was sort of a year or two before, was the Milky Way setting over Sugarloaf. And it's a really hard shot to get. If you want to do it in one shot, it's near on impossible unless you have a really, really good camera that's good in the dark.
Yeah.
So basically what I did was I planned it all out using photo pills and that sort of thing to line up where exactly the Milky Way was going to be. I went and scoped out my composition during the day. So I went for a wander down and sort of sussed that out. And then I went back at about, I think, 8 or 9 at night when the sun had set, it was dark, but the moon was up. So I actually So I set my tripod down and sort of paid very close attention to exactly where it was. Took that shot then for the foreground so that I've got the rock itself exposed in all the foreground. And then I went back at, I think it was about 4 in the morning, I think.
The same day though, right?
Yeah, same. Yeah. Everything was the same day.
Yep.
3 trips there in a day. Good thing we live close.
Yeah.
And then, exposed for that Milky Way at night. So I think the bottom one was shot, I think it was maybe f8, ISO 1000, and it was about a 30-second exposure.
Yep.
And then the one at night would have been about a 25-second exposure at ISO 4000.
Yep. Yeah, incredible. And then in terms of your post-production, what have you done there?
Yeah, so obviously I've blended the sky and the foreground in Photoshop. And then some of my processing, I'll do Lightroom, some will be Photoshop. I think back then, these ones I did at Camera Raw, most of the sort of colouring in that. I use a lot of the split toning to get the sky and the core separating a bit.
Yep.
And then I use a editing software called Nik Collection, which it's really good at pinpointing really specific spots in a photo, being able to alter them without making it look like there's a dead circle around where you're editing. Like everything's just so feathered and really natural looking. So that sort of adds a bit of warmth and exposure to the brighter parts of the Milky Way.
I don't know about you, but sometimes when I have a good shot that you know is good, once you've been editing it, do you just sit there and have that moment of reflection when it's finished and it's on your screen and you sit back and just you're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, I had a couple this past week in Carragini, which I was pretty stoked with that. We got some really good light with some drone shots of the camper we were using in that.
You know, as a photographer, you do take a lot of photos, and not every single one of them is good. So even
definitely not.
Even for someone that works really hard at the craft, getting that sweet shot is still super rewarding, isn't it?
That is definitely. Looking on the back of the camera and sort of seeing something you've been sort of thinking of for a long time and wanting to achieve, and you know you've achieved it. It's a pretty good feeling. Yeah.
Did you quickly zoom in and make sure everything was in focus?
Yeah.
Standard. Of late, you've just you've done your trip to Carragini and you mentioned using the drone up there.
Yep.
What was you've moved into, or you do a lot of drone work? How has drones changed your skill set? What you look for, and it's just become another tool in the bag.
Yeah, it's just become another tool for me. I try not to use it too much because I don't want to get reliant on it, because I find, especially down Dunsborough, there's so many nice beaches that are good for the drone. I find I can get lazy. I'll look back and over a month I'll be like, shit, 90% of my photos are all drone photos.
Yeah.
I need to get the DSLR back out, but the DSLR is more reliant on conditions and everything like that. Yeah. So like the drone's awesome, especially for video and when we're traveling and stuff, and obviously getting perspectives that you can't see from land. Yeah. And when I am using the drone, I like to play with the shadows a lot. I took a shot in Ireland 2 years ago of one of the stone circles, and it was sort of towards the end of the day, and it looked awesome. Just as I don't normally shoot top down so much, But this one here just looked perfect because of the sun. So you had your circle here, and the sun was setting over here. So it's just like a dream catcher kind of look.
Oh, amazing!
So,
yeah. They changed. They did change the whole, the landscape a fair bit. When you discovered drones and flying drones, were you excited about that new perspective that was available to you as a photographer?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's been great being able to capture different things, especially travel. With my trips to Tahiti and Iceland and stuff, some of the stuff you can capture out there with the drones just unreal.
Blows your mind.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is? How important do you think it is to get off the beaten track and try and discover and explore and find new places to shoot?
Oh, it's very important. Find a lot of shots, and I'm guilty of it as well. Like people will just go to the same spot, put their tripod down the same place, try and capture the same shot. I do really try and get out there and find new spots. I've been a bit lazy over the last few months, but then last month I went out for a few good walks around Dunsborough and just finding new little sort of seascapes and that I can go back to when there's a good sunset or sunrise.
Yeah.
And just even looking at different ways to shoot things. So when I was in New Zealand a couple of years ago, we'd been up and shot the Milky Way at the top of the Remarkables, and then we came down, and because we had to walk down the ski field, I looked back up with all the chairlifts. I was like, I'd love to get a shot of a snowboarder with the Milky Way. And the next day, luckily it was still clear, and a mate lived in Queenstown, had a snowboard, so we hiked back up and sort of did that with, we had not a crew, but there was about 3 of us needed for the shot.
Yeah.
Obviously my mate on the snowboard, I set the camera up and everything, and then I actually went off to the side with my flash and strobed the guy just as he was turning, so we got a bit of spray out of the snow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. And it is great to, when you can bring your mates along or you do something collectively, it's always a good buzz, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always more fun and get more out of it.
I find sometimes, though, as a photographer, you do a lot of stuff solo, and I quite enjoy that time by myself. Yep. And because we're always so constantly under commitments and time pressure and stuff like that. But I find photography, especially landscape photography, is something that you really need to take your time with and slow down, hike to the right spot, wait for the right light. It is a bit of a drawn out process, but I really enjoy that part of it. Yeah,
and it can be a process that it's hard to do with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a group or a few people, like they're sort of like they want to do different things. So if it's a very specific shot, like I wouldn't go with more than one person normally. Yeah. But if it's just like I want to be social and meet up with a few guys, then I'll happily go shoot. But most of the time when I do that, I don't actually end up shooting. I'll just talk crap. Yeah, no, that's good. You're talking about different ways that you prepare for your shots. How do you research or prepare your shoots? And are you using any specific apps or anything like that? Obviously, a lot of searching on Google Maps and stuff. I use photo pills to sort of work out, or Stellarium's another app to work out exactly where the Milky Way is going to be. Milky Way or the sun is going to be rising and setting, or the moon. And then other apps, I use a website called yr.no, I think it's called, for cloud cover forecasts. That'll give you the low, high and medium cloud sort of percentages. So if it's going to be mostly high cloud, then you should be pretty good for a good show. I think I'd still contribute a lot of my sunset knowledge to you, because I remember we were in some chat group and you're like, as long as there's a gap between the cloud and the horizon, you're good to go. Yeah, pretty much. Last night in Dunsborough, I had to go meet the landscaper for our place that we're building, and just as we pulled up, I looked out and I was like, oh no, it was a really stormy, miserable day, but then there was a wee gap and it was about to light up. I was like, oh, this is bad timing. Yeah, you do feel like you're getting a bit of FOMO, isn't it? When you see conditions are good and you're doing something, not taking photos, it kills you. Okay, we're going to switch to your second shot here. Yep. Another cracker, mate, and this one, I know this one's really important to you. So it looks like you've made a big commitment in this, if that is indeed you. Yeah, I sure did. This was last year. I was lucky enough to secure some work with the Four Seasons in Bora Bora, and as soon as I knew that, like I was already going to propose when we went to Tahiti, but once I knew we were going to Bora Bora, I was like, right, I'll start researching where we're staying and what I can do. And I seen that little island off there and I thought, right, that's the place. And so I started to look up like how I could capture it, and I contacted the resort about using the drone and that, and they're like, oh no, you can't, we're too close to the airport and that, you have to contact the airport and that. So I ended up having to contact customs, the airport. So, but they were good about it though. So I had to get a a declaration form to bring the drone into the country.
Yeah.
And then I was allowed to fly before, I think, 7 a.m. before the airport started being used.
Yeah.
And then it was funny though, because when we looked at this island on any pictures or Google Maps, we thought, it's only must be about waist deep to get out there. And then
it looks like there's a decent channel there.
Yeah, when we pulled up, I looked and I was like, oh no, how am I going to do this? But luckily the resort were awesome, and I went and seen them the night before and asked if we could use one of the canoes or something to get out there. Like I was just asking for one of the plastic kayaks or something.
Yep.
And the lady,
that one's way more legit.
Yeah, the lady we've been dealing with, she's just like, oh, we'll leave the paddle, we'll give you the paddle to take back to your room tonight, and then you can just use this in the morning. And then
because your missus like, what's the paddle for, mate?
Oh, she knew we were going out there, but she just thought we were getting photos.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted a photo out there. And then the ladies also made like a traditional Tahitian, like the flowers for the head for it, which they made overnight. Like they worked night shift to do it. I was like, it's unbelievable service there.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It was incredible. Yeah,
There's
and then
such good people.
Yeah. So I just had the Mavic 2 on interval timing.
Oh, yep.
So I just had it sort of taking a photo every 2 seconds, and I just left it there, and I sort of ran off and put some stuff behind those trees at the end there to get rid of the bags and stuff. And came back amazing. And Amy was turned around dancing and being silly, and then when she turned around, I was down on one knee, and she nearly crapped her pants on.
It's amazing. And listen, like that is a moment in time that you guys will remember forever, and it's absolutely perfectly captured. I think there's a collective sigh around the world of all the girls that saw that and were like, nudging their boyfriends, thinking, "Mate, you've got a lot to." I
got a few abusive messages.
Yeah, you would
have.
have. Setting the bar way too high, Hamish.
I did see a good one last week when we were in Karajini. We were pretty much the only ones there, and there was a couple from Queensland. They were just down sort of past just past where they're not allowed to go at Fern Pool, I think.
Yeah. And
I was away up shooting, but the guy I was with, he said, those two just got engaged. So it was an awesome spot.
Was it? Yeah, so it's becoming a competition now. Yeah. You've set the bar. Mate, I was going to ask you about the... so we'll just talk a bit more about this image. In terms of your post-production on this, what did you do to make it look as good as it did?
I lightened up the middle a lot, obviously to put focus on us. And then I've just turned down the highlights on the sky, and I've added a bit of colour on this one because it was a little bit of a flat morning, and I wanted it to reflect sort of how it actually felt while we're there. But there wasn't a great deal, bit of saturation here and there. And yeah.
It's an absolute banger.
Cheers,
on this, I mean, this was really popular on Instagram, and all your photos are generally really, really popular on Instagram. How important do you think social media is to the landscape that we're in at the moment?
It is really important, but I'm trying to get myself into sort of a mindset of not shooting for social media all the time.
Yeah.
Because most of I found lately just engagement's down heavily, and there's just, I don't know, there's kind of a collective thought at the moment that Instagram's sort of, I don't know, on the way out, or just everyone's sort of struggling a bit.
It's dipping, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's lost its shine a little bit, and like you said, everyone's confused by the algorithms and the hashtags, and you effectively need to pay for engagement at the moment. It feels like anyway.
Yeah. So I think getting across multiple platforms is really important. So like using Facebook as well. I find Facebook's been a bit better for me in terms of a business side, like actually getting people to convert to a workshop or a print or something like that.
Yep.
Instagram's just sort of a scroll and double tap, double tap.
Yeah. When you do post your photos on Facebook, do you still leave them in this sort of portrait like you would cut it for Instagram?
This one here I wouldn't. I would have posted the wide shot. But if it's a shot that I've taken in portrait, then I'll post it in portrait. Yeah. Yep. I think either kind of works on Facebook. So,
what are some of the things some of the benefits you do think about Instagram and social media? What are some of the things you like about it? Just social media platforms.
Probably a community more than anything. Like just the people I've met all over the world and that. So it's a good way to share your work. Yeah. It used to be a bit better, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But the stories are really good. Like you get to know people a bit more and see a bit behind the scenes and that.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to do here, mate. Yeah, in depth. And what, some of the things you don't like about social media?
How much time it takes. Yeah. So like, if you want your page to do well, you have to spend more time on other people's to get that. That's like at the moment in stories, it's like I want to see people's content on there, and most of the time you're seeing people sharing other people's pages, so they're sharing their pages.
Yeah, it seems like it's like this big, it's like a fake drive of engagement with each other.
Yeah.
You know, meaningless comments or whatever it might be, or like you said, profile sharing.
Yeah.
But all self-serving in order to get feed.
It's a weird
engagement
timeline
back
there
to
at the
yours.
moment.
Yeah, it is very, very bizarre, and everyone's playing the game. It's a weird thing. I totally agree.
You hear the rumours of Instagram getting rid of like people being able to see likes and stuff.
Yeah,
which I think could be a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
you won't know till it happens, but
and from the discussions that I've heard, it's about removing the popularity contest potentially,
and hopefully it'll take it back to being more about good content.
Yeah. But then does another metric become what it's measured by? So does it then become about how many comments you've got?
Yeah, it's true.
You know, so will we try and look at it that way? I think you're right. I think it'd be better to try and bring it back to, is it a really good picture or not, and not you know, if they're going to take away the likes, they might as well take away the followers as well. Yeah. And just have a profile. I would prefer that personally.
Yeah, though I think there's a couple of platforms in the past that have done sort of similar things.
Yeah.
Like 500 pics is kind of...
Yeah.
Well, they don't remove it, but it's based on how that's doing at the time. Like when people see it, it pops up and they'll get that percentage rating or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But,
mate, you've done a lot of travel in your time and you're gearing up to do some more, as we were chatting before we jumped onto the show. Where has been one of the highlight places that you've visited in terms of shooting? What's your favourite place to shoot?
So favourite place to shoot is definitely Iceland. Yeah. Ireland was great too. Iceland just has so much to shoot there, whether it's winter, summer, autumn. Yeah. So you've got the Northern Lights, you have the ice beaches, you have canyons, mountains, waterfalls. The Icelandic horses make great photos.
Mate,
there's just...
sport for choice, really.
You try and drive half an hour without stopping in Iceland, you'll be doing well.
It's one of those situations where you don't know what to shoot with. You've got your drone, you've got your DSLR, you're in a panic.
Yeah, and then on the other end of the spectrum, Tahiti, and it's a close second, not so much for shooting, but just being there and enjoying it and the people. And obviously I've done the Four Seasons thing, which was great, but if anyone's going there, I'd recommend doing a local family stay. Yeah. So I have a local family I stay with in Tahiti down by Chopu. Yeah. And they're just the most incredible people, and it's not actually that expensive. Everyone thinks Tahiti's so expensive. Yeah. Where I think the first time I went, accommodation, food and everything was like $130 a night. Yeah. And I didn't spend a cent outside of that for the week I was there.
That's amazing. Yeah. And, travel in general, but especially photography, that if you engage in those cultures where you're traveling, it makes the experience so much richer. Yeah, it does. And you take a lot more away from it. Yeah. I think instead of just going there, same location, take your shots and leaving, you're only really getting half the experience. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful. All right, we're going to switch to your third image. Wow. All right. So this, I think I've seen one of these before. Is this, you're going to have to tell me where it is. Yep. And, it's disturbing. Amazing, but weird as well, like it's definitely made me double take. It looks like a human figure. It looks like an alien. It looks like something out of a nightmare. But 6 shot. Tell me about it. Yeah, so this was in Mexico. It's off an island called Isla Mujeres, which means Island of Women, I think. Yep. It's just off about 10k from Cancun. And it's an artist. Can't remember where he's from. The actual display is called Musa. And it's an artist who's put, I think, 200 sort of figures down there. And it was to give the local reef there a break from all the tourism that was just smashing it and obviously killing all the coral life and everything. Yeah. So he's put these here to bring back a bit of coral and take the tourists to this spot, and it was just an awesome place to free dive down and get some shots. And, is that the one where there's a big circle of statues, or is that? No, that one's in Indonesia. Oh, right. Yeah, there's a few of them around now. There's another really good one in Egypt, I think. And a couple in Indonesia, and then this one in Mexico. It's a good initiative. It's a great initiative, yeah. And you can actually see there's coral growing on there, so that's really cool. And what kind of depth was it in? It's only about 8 to 10 meters,
So
Yep.
it's pretty good depth.
Were you on scuba or free diving?
For this shot, I think I was actually scuba on this one. I wanted to free dive it, but we were
Yep.
real limited for time, and
Yep.
it would have meant hiring our own boat to get out there.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges with shooting underwater?
I was having trouble that day. Pardon me. My shutter was just going off non-stop.
Oh,
My
right.
button had stuck down or something, and it was just the whole time. So, but generally, I actually find shooting underwater, once you're under there, not too bad, because you're kind of just floating there really nice and quietly. Unless
Yeah.
it's in really rough water, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But finding composition's obviously a little trickier, because once you go past it with scuba gear, it's a little harder just to walk back.
Do you tend to find yourself holding your breath when you're taking the shot, so you're not blowing bubbles
I've
out?
never actually thought of that.
Yeah.
Probably though.
Yeah, I do that every time. Every time I'm getting the shot, I'm holding the breath, which is a big no-no in scuba diving.
I actually have another shot from this sequence somewhere where there was a scuba diver behind the statue, and the bubbles from the scuba diver was coming out almost where his mouth was.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh, we'll see that one next time. Mate, I know you do a lot of you do workshops and,
Yep.
and training and facilitate experiences for other photographers. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you're drawn to that sort of thing? Why train other people?
So when I sort of got into the astro side of things and started to get my head around that a lot, I met a good friend of mine, Dale Sharp.
Yep.
And he was always sort of my inspiration for that sort of thing. I seen one of his shots from Lake Bonnie, I think it was, and we became really good mates. And then one day he's just like, "Oh, we should do a workshop up at the Pinnacles." I was like, "Yeah, sweet." So we did 2 back-to-back nights, and that was sort of the start of it. We would take a group of 10 up there, show them all how to plan, shoot the Milky Way.
Yep.
And then the week after that, we went down and found another spot down in the south that had all these cottages around it with a big old windmill. So we thought, well, this is a great place to run like a weekend long one. So they've kind of slowly progressed from that 3 or 4 hour workshop to I went to the 2-day one down at Stirling Ranges, and then there's been international ones since then.
Awesome. So you've been to Iceland, you've got Norway coming up. There's a few other spots you've been to, right?
Yeah, so I've done Iceland, and today we were supposed to be starting our WA Astro one, but sadly Dale passed away.
Yep.
This past week in the States, sort of chasing his dream.
Yep.
Shooting Tornado Alley. So he was unfortunately struck by another car after he'd just had an accident but been okay. So
yeah,
there's
there's
Dale up
Dale on
there.
the screen there. Yeah, that was shocking news that was felt worldwide.
Yeah,
he was a really
absolutely rattled the photography community, and
Yeah.
I've been a wreck the last week pretty much.
Yep.
I found out when I was at Carragini I had no service,
Mm-hmm.
and I rang from a payphone to speak to my missus.
Yep.
And she was all good. I rang back a couple of hours later, and she told me the news.
Yeah.
And I was didn't really believe it that night. And then when I came back into service the next day, I was like, I've got to get back into service to see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it was.
And
I'd never met the guy, but I'd followed his work, and in my opinion, he's one of the best landscape photographers I've ever seen.
Yeah,
anywhere,
easy.
hands down.
And his drive to see other people succeed was what I think separates him a lot from other people. So he was so helpful for everyone. Didn't matter how big or small you were, he'd have the time of day.
Yeah, no arrogance.
So when we were in Iceland, we'd finish at 2-3 in the morning, and because he's so good on the stories, because he's such a humorous guy, and he'd have hundreds of messages a day, and he'd sit there at 2-3 in the morning rather than getting the sleep he needs. He'd sit there and reply to everyone.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, big heart.
Yeah.
And how much you guys shot together a lot? How much was he inspiration in terms of the way he shoots and what he taught you along the way?
Yeah, he's a massive inspiration for me, especially starting off for the Astro. The first time we shot together was at the top of the Remarkables, which you'll see soon. The shot here, this is actually the first. We're knowing each other for a long time before this, but this was the first time we shot together.
Yep.
I was over there shooting a campaign with a friend from the States, and he was there travelling around in a camper. And he asked me one night if I wanted to go up the Remarkables with himself and local Kiwi photographer Jordan McKinley.
Yep.
And we took the hike up there. It was about minus 18 or something.
Man.
Stupid.
Totally
Dale
worth
had
it.
not long actually been diagnosed with cancer before this as well.
Yeah.
So he's had his battles.
Yeah.
So he was struggling to climb up the whole time, but the heart he had to get up there, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
It was one of the steepest tracks on the ski field, and he powered through, and then we got to the top, and I think we took a couple of single shots, and then me and him we set up and decided we're going to try our first Milky Way pano. We'd never done them before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was the result from up there. And, yeah, it was just so many laughs that night on the way down. We, rather than walking back down, we decided that we'd slide on our asses the whole way down like we're kids. And then one of the slides he did, I was videoing it, and as he goes past me, I'm looking, your bag's undone, mate. And his camera was a couple of hundred metres back up the hill.
Oh, no. And we safely recovered, though, obviously.
Yeah.
Got the shot. That's amazing. It's a huge shame and a huge loss for not only for the photography community, but for his wife and his little daughter.
Yeah,
and
Carly and me, can't believe how well Carly's doing through all this.
Yeah.
She's an absolute trooper.
Yeah. But bizarre circumstances as well. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But he definitely left a good legacy, I think.
He's left an amazing legacy, yeah. So, like, with these coming workshops, we hummed and hard what we were going to do. The one this weekend, obviously, I'm here, so we've cancelled that one.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually postponed it to a later date, and then we have another one starting that me and him were supposed to do in New Zealand on Monday or Tuesday, and we decided he'd want us to push on with that, so we're going ahead, and all of our participants have been amazing about it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're going to miss his funeral.
Yep.
So I think we're going to organise a bit of a video sort of thing.
Link
We're going to have a big gathering in Queenstown with a heap of people that knew him over there. So
that's good.
It'll be a good night.
Yeah, and his work, the stuff that he did is absolutely timeless. So that'll live on as his legacy as well. I guess.
Definitely.
We'll just have another look at one other shot because he was out storm chasing, right?
He was, yeah. This was one of his last shots that he posted.
And he was so prolific on social media, like he's posting every day almost.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it was so shocking because we literally heard from him hours before or whatever. So this absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, I told him after he sent this to me, I was like, that's the best storm photo I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's a better one out there.
No.
To have everything just so perfectly lined up, and he does so well because he learnt a lot while he was over there just about chasing the weather and that thing. One of our other good friends, David Metcalf, was helping him a bit with sort of where to be in that. Yeah.
Was this his first storm season?
It was, in the States. He does a lot of stuff in Queensland and that.
Yeah.
But not over in the States. This was the first one. And I mean one of the ones he posted after this was equally as good.
Yeah,
the very last one he posted was absolutely incredible. And
I'm
going to get one of them printed and put above my desk just as a bit of
a
reminder and inspiration to when I look down at my screen and I think I'm nearly finished and look up and go, nah, keep going.
Yeah. And his stuff was like that. Like literally every photo that he posted is mind blowing. Yeah. I just couldn't. This is incredible. But
he would spend. Like he would spend maybe not something like this, but some of his astro shots. He'd spend 5 hours on it easy. Yeah, it's worth it though. Yeah. That dedication's incredible. Awesome. All right, mate. Well, that's pretty much it. I wanted to thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for having me.
Love following along on your work. Where can people find you and follow your stuff? What's your Instagram? So Instagram's just at Hamish Stubbs. Yep. My Facebook is Hamish Stubbs Photography, I think. Mm-hmm. Can people buy prints of yours? Yep. My website's just www.hamishstubbs.com. Okay. So I've got prints on there. Right. We'll put those links underneath the video, and in a little intro, you'll see them up there as well. So, mate, thanks a lot. Look forward to shooting with you sometime soon. And that's it. Osprey TV. Thanks very much, guys. Look forward to next week when we have another guest in. That was Hamish Stubbs.